Hiya, it's me again, and just basically at this point it's just hearing Christ because that's kind of I think where we're all at. This dream, I don't have the date when it occurred. It's again before I started writing things down, and this was a doozy. It was extremely hard to figure out because it was so. There's a lot of symbolism in this one, and what I found is I actually love these dreams because it one forces me to look things up and to think it out. The one thing I wasn't doing in the past was like chewing on it for a bit. I think I had a dream kind of telling me to do that with chewing gum. I'm like, oh, okay. And when it goes to scripture, it's even better, right? About chewing on God's word. And when you read something, give it a minute, pray on it, and then maybe go back at it, look at it again, or do some research. But again, this dream was broken into 4 sections. And to give you some insight, I did ask Jesus if I was on the right track or not. Because again, you always want to consult with him. Because there's a lot of things buying for your time right now. And I'll talk about something later on, maybe another video, about how when I watch something else, how my dreams completely shifted to something that is just a convoluted mess that I can't make any sense out of. And that was right before I watched the sheeps and with clothing thing. So, I don't know. Probably maybe telling me, you know. Anyway, let me try to find it here. Highlight it. Number 14. Whether that's actually 14 or not, I don't know. So I'm just going to read it off, and then we'll go through it. This dream was split into 4. To the first section, and there's a little bit of a story with this one. I was there was a man running through a house. It was almost like post apocalyptic, so kind of like any zombie games you play and stuff like that. They weren't zombies though. I'm just saying it was kind of like that. But he was running through the house. There was a baby in there. It wasn't his. Before he could get to it, though, he was getting attacked. And then the dream kind of continued, just normal kind of stuff in a way of what that would be like. And then trying to remember every little detail of that. This was actually there was a lot in this dream. But at the very end of it, he went through a tunnel. And then the tunnel collapsed behind him. And he came across some people. And one of them had a shovel, kind of a golden tip. Then the dream switched. And you're going to notice a pattern here in a minute. It's kind of neat. It went to... This was like the weirdest thing. And it takes time to figure things out, right? There was a man coming up an elevator, but it was not a normal elevator. It was gears, mechanical, and it definitely was, like I said, wasn't on Earth anymore. I felt like I was inside of him, and it switched where I kind of felt like I was inside of him, and I felt like I was Arnold Schwarzenegger for some reason. I don't know why. And he had gold bars. He seemed very upset or disappointed. He had gold bars. One fell off, and I kind of figured out what this meant by listening to somebody about the bone marrow. Yeah, I had a dream about bone marrow. You know that was in the Bible? And I wrote that dream completely off, too. And it was just that's what I remember the most out of it. That stuck out. But I wrote that completely off until I came across something in the index, and I went, oh, one gold bar fell off. Now, what that means, and it can mean a lot of things, it's layered, okay? One thing is that when you accept Christ as your Savior and you mean it, and that seed gets planted in your heart, it's almost like your heart's soil. And then you continue to learn, and you continue to it begins to grow. So he's working inside of you to clean you up, basically. He removes dysfunction, because that's what it's doing. It's removing dysfunction, and then he adds peace. And as you notice, as you're making this journey, especially if you're new and you're starting to make this journey, you're probably going to notice that the more you learn, the more you understand, the more peace you get, right? He takes something away, dysfunction, and adds something positive. And it seems to be the pattern there. And of course, it's layered. So we'll get into that. I think there's always something there for you, but the dreams really also are about what's going to happen. So it's a beautiful, brilliant thing that God has done here. And in the past, it was certain people that would get these dreams and visions. And what God did was it spread it out all over the world. Billions of people, different languages, which goes right into speaking with tongues. It has nothing to do with jibber jabber. It's speaking different languages, which is exactly what's happening, right? Because I speak English, or somebody else who speaks French, or somebody else, who speaks another language, and it's exactly that. It's brilliant. When he opened up one of the other gold bars that were on his lap, it was filled with chocolate. Okay, yeah. And that could revolve around, we'll go with the simplest thing first. And it also is a star reference. So again, we got a star reference. We are supposed to look up. I know there's Christians that go, oh no, we're not supposed to read the stars. Well, those were put there for us to look at to see what was going to happen because it's written in the Bible and it's going to show when these things are occurring. In the past, they did it all the time. In the way of this, like, worshiping them, no. Zodiac stuff, no. But those were put there for us. And so we know, oh, this is about to happen. If you know the scripture and you know how that lines up. And that's a big deal, especially with certain signs that do occur in the heavens during the end times. Again, it's hard to see it with all the clouds and stuff. I get it. And you don't know how it translates, how long it takes from that sign to how long it happens on earth. So that's a whole nother ball of wax that I haven't gotten into yet. Anyway, then it changed again where somebody had their arm around like a child, like under their arm, and had their hand around their throat of a beast and was just strangling it, and it would, like it was effortless. And again, it wasn't on earth, I can tell you that. It was, you could tell it wasn't on earth, which means, again, probably look up, right? So 2 star references. And we know what the beast is. That was actually a neat part of the dream. The last part was there was a car sitting on rails, and they began to move forward and driving through, like a beautiful day, beautiful sunny day, gorgeous. I remember my head popping up the sunroof, and somebody was next to me that felt like my husband, but I wasn't married. And I was just so happy. The dream was over. So, how do you break this down when it's 4 sections with 2 star references? We can go at logical. The gold represents potentially economic collapse. Our food is going to go out the roof. And again, it's layered upon layer upon layer, right? Because before I fell asleep, and this was a while back, something popped into my head saying, check, universal chocolate codes. Why? Either way, that's what led to the one video of the 4 horsemen. So the thing about war is it's like a domino effect. It causes everything else, right? It's going to cause huge increase in cost of stuff. It's going to cause famine, and it's going to cause pestilence. It's literally just a domino effect. You saw that with Egypt. One thing led to another, right? With the Exodus. What this has to do with Arnold, I do not know. I don't know. I know I looked. I don't know hardly anything about him because I don't care. But he's a human being. He's one of God's creations. I know that his sign is Leo. That was interesting. I went, okay, there's something to that. Maybe we'll look some things up here. I wish I could remember when I had that dream. That might have been important. I kind of know a roundabout, but because I think he was wearing red, I may look back when those planets were going into Mars, or when those planets were going to the bow, and see what's going on in Leo. Okay. In the way of chocolate, well, it might even be giving us. So what we can do is get maybe a little bit of an idea here. So the countries that produce most of the world's chocolate is Germany, Belgium, Italy, Switzerland, and the United States. Okay, that helps a little. And that could, again, referring to economic. So, and we know Switzerland is kind of known. It's kind of more of a mindset of chocolate, but also that's where the banks are. So keep that in mind. That's one element of it. Oh, I had this dream before Christmas, so I wrote the time down because of that other part of the dream. And the way of the gentleman running through, again, the shovel could actually deal with a certain particular feast. I can't remember the name of it. It's where they dug their own graves and stuff. Also, keep digging. There was a lady I ran into. I was listening to the bone marrow, and I'll put that link in there. It's deep, but it's actually really interesting. There's a lot of really neat stuff in it. That kind of made sense in the way it kind of fit right along that, and it was like, oh, okay, that's why I got the ad and so the ad, subtract an ad, what that really meant. But again, it could be economic. Again, everything's layered. Okay, when we know it was, let's go right here. Now, what we're looking for is Leo, right? We want to see 1,000 of them, and that's interesting. What's that? Huh. Okay, well. We got 11. Let's see. When did the war start in Israel? I think I had that after that started. Man, I wish I knew the date. So we got the moon in Leo. Moon pie. Just got that. I don't know what happened on that day. I have something to do with that? I don't know. But again, it's no idea. Okay, we're not going to worry about that because I can't. There's no way. If I had a day, that would probably help. All I know is that. I'll move forward. And people who maybe know more what's going on, what occurred or something around that particular time. But you do have this. You've got three things in the scales, which is justice or judgment. Just seeing what ends up in Leo here. All right. Then crosses over it again. All right. Well, this is impossible without a date. Okay. I can't figure because I don't have a date. It's a star reference. I don't know. And his zodiac sign. Again, I don't care about the zodiac stuff, but Leo is a constellation that is in the Bible. So from there, I couldn't tell you. So what was interesting about the first part of the dream was, that's close to the first. Yeah, that's the first seal. And again, how long it takes things to translate to Earth, I do not know. And then, of course, you got the beast reference as well. Anyway, I was at a gas station, and just at a happenstance, I started talking about, what I noticed from a dream a while back that led me to Job 40, which is talking about the behemoth, is that both the behemoth man and the Leviathan share the same number because they were created on the same day, which is number 666, basically. I don't know what that... It has to mean something. It's not a coincidence. It's not just happenstance. I know there's something with Nebuchadnezzar. I'll put a link in here to Truth in Christ where he talks about that number. But there might be something connected to those other two things that might give us a clue to something else. I know that the behemoth is east of Jordan, or east of Eden, and the Leviathan is actually a type of a sea creature, so it rises out of the sea, right? These things are created by God, so they're used for His purposes, which is more or less everything is used for His purposes. Kind of interesting there. You got the moon in Leo, you got the sun right over the head, so in the bow and the horseman, and then of course you got the other three coming in. So could have been a hit to that back then. I didn't write down the day or time. The other one's kind of self-explanatory. You got the child, and that does go to Revelation. The beast trying to devour, or the dragon trying to devour the child before it gives birth. So kind of a Revelation 12 sign, but I think it happens in Revelation as well. So this sign basically happened in 2012, 2017. Interesting how a lot of things occurred at that time. So why would I get that dream if it's already happened? But again, we don't know how long from that sign to how it translates on Earth and the way of how that's going to look. Probably 7 years, probably. But you guys could look this over. And again, it's interesting because when you first read Revelation, you're kind of going, what? Now, a lot of this is explained through Daniel about the horns and stuff like that. You have to go to Daniel to get that explanation because he had to ask for help, and that was explained to him by Gabriel. I think this is the halfway point. Oh, I don't even know. What is this? Easy to read. Don't do that. But by them making it easy to read, it's changing the whole dynamic of the Bible. Try to stick with the King James. It seems to be quite perfect, literally. And it matters. The words matter. The placement of those words matter. So I'll let you guys go through that. So again, the chocolate, the cost of food is going to skyrocket. What has it got to do? It's going to be referenced in a star reference somehow, which could be something in the scales, okay, because it deals with that. And how's that going to translate, right? I mean, well, like I said, war causes everything else, right? It's a domino effect. So you can stock up, but you can save for 7 years, right? And not to mention, it doesn't matter because at any point in time, you could lose your home. At any point in time, it doesn't matter. That's why you put all your faith in God, because it doesn't matter. Everything else is just stuff. When I was at a gas station, and I just brought it up about the behemoth thing, and I just kind of, I don't know why I even said it. I just had any interesting dreams lately. And he kind of went, He goes, yeah, I was in a house that wasn't mine, and there was a kid there, a baby there, or a kid there that wasn't mine. I went, going back to that first dream. And there were some similarities of how it matched up with who I was looking at. Because again, I was watching, I was more witnessing or viewing. But what a coincidence that is, right? And again, it seems to be a pattern. Because he's like, well, he doesn't have any kids, so he's like, this isn't my kid. So, why is the kid there? And it's this child reference that's popping up, and it's going to the birth pains and stuff like that. So, again, even though that sign happened 7 years ago, it's, with all these dreams and everything, and then everything else beginning to build, like birth pains, right? It's just beginning to build and build and build. Which is interesting is we know that a normal birth is 9 months. So it's at 9 years, right? So you got 7 years from Acts 2:17. So if that's the halfway point, you're looking at 27, something like that. That being the Great Tribulation. So that's interesting, right? Don't know. Any help would be appreciated. The last part of the dream, the track reference, the bridegroom reference, obviously was a pretty good ending to that. I didn't really look didn't really look that track up because I'm like, I don't know if that's, again, when you think something's not in there, and it ended up like the sundial was amazing. I'll talk about that in another video because when I listened to a sermon about it, just wonderful sermon. And I'll definitely, when I talk about that, I will put that link in there because it was beautiful. And there were so many layers of, it's almost like God is giving you so much information in this one little thing, right? This one little symbol or this one little thing, like a sundial. Well, it goes to a story. Yeah, it goes to this story. This is about divine sign, but the tip of it turned to a rock. And I'm like, do they mean Iraq? Does it mean Iraq or something? Is there going to be a divine sign somewhere? But when you go and you listen to the story, there's so many layers there. And there's things that I've already let go a long time ago. And there's things I still need to work on. So it's definitely, God is communicating with you through these dreams in a really beautiful and wonderful way. And I get it. We just put them out there, but I think you're meant to decipher them. And I get it. It's very difficult because, things that you don't think are important or things that you think, oh, I'm not going to find that in there. Like, tube. You'll be shocked, of how brilliant Yahweh is. And that story was cool because this was about God moving the prayer request, and it's bigger than that too, but moving the sun back 10 degrees, which is a huge divine sign. And even the Babylonians who worship the stars, they don't look at them and go, okay, God's doing this. But because it was so powerful, they realized, wait a minute, somebody's controlling our gods. Do you see here why that was so cool? And they actually went to him, okay, and he blew it. And really, with the theme of that, is there's also the heel reference as well. The biggest understanding from it was at some point, as you begin to learn more about God and through the Bible, is at some point somebody's going to come and ask you questions, and you better be able to answer them the best you can, with God's help. But it just feels like that's kind of what it's saying. At some point, this is going to occur as things continue to happen in the world. And there's going to be some stuff that people are not going to understand because we're not used to seeing supernatural events. You're going to have to explain this, or give answers that's going to help them get closer to God. And that's very difficult, and I understand. But it made sense. So there was a beautiful opportunity for Hezekiah to boast about God. About, oh yeah, that was Yahweh that did that. Because per request, he completely didn't do that at all. He kept showing off his gold and all his little treasures. Blew it. Again, there are going to be some supernatural events that occur, and some people are going to write it off to HARP, or some people are going to write it off to climate change. But if you could point them directly to, especially in Revelation or especially in the Bible about a prophecy, that's going to help them realize that, maybe you're right. Maybe this is God, Jesus is coming back. So just, keep that in mind. Family, friends, and stuff like that. So that was, we were going to look up track, weren't we? Yeah. So when you think something's not there, that was a really neat story. In the way of just all the different layers to it. I even looked up pill. I dreamed about a pill once. Still trying to figure that out. Let's see. Verse track. Oh, that's neat. What does that got to do with running? Oh, track. Okay. Oh, let's do this. 11 instances. I'll have to go through all of these to figure out, here's a horseman reference. It was a car, that makes sense, right? Because it's like a vehicle. So it might be a horse is something that you would ride. What is that from? Kings 7:14. Oh, neat. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to read that. Job. That might be important. There's a 17 reference. I'll look at the horse one because, again, a vehicle would be the same thing as riding something. So that kind of makes sense. So just when you think, the only one that makes sense to me is right here. And it also makes sense because of right here. Patterns repeat, okay, in the Bible. And they repeat for a reason. Even though some of the places have changed in name, it's going to repeat. In the way of the United States, I really don't know what's going to occur here. Whether it's economic collapse, whether it's invasion, I don't know. It depends. God's going to make that choice. I know the heart of this nation, although may have kind of, I don't know how to put it, I wouldn't say fallen away or just kind of lost sight of God. I think that's more of the case. got busy with our lives kind of thing. But as a whole, the heart of the nation, believe it or not, I don't think is wicked. Is that not completely lost? And I get it. You look at the news and you look at this and you go, oh, is so really? Did they ever show you good stuff? Now, granted, there are places, certain places where you're going to see it everywhere. New York, California. But is that really the heart in the way of the true heart of the nation? And a good example, if the true heart of the nation was so vile, then this woke stuff would not be filling everywhere, right? Movies would be successful and exactly. You see what I'm saying? They're not. They're filling at a massive pace. That tells you that culture-wise, we're not as wicked and corrupt as they want to make you believe. I do think, for whatever reason, God chooses kings and he puts them there and he removes them. And sometimes he removes them for a time. Whatever purpose Biden serves, it's for God's purpose. Believe it or not, you still pray for him, but it's going to be for God's purpose. I don't care what leader it is in any country, good or bad, it's for God's purpose. This is the glory of God. Period. And I know you go, well, what all this suffering and all this? You're looking at things in a very narrow frame of time when God has already seen the end from the beginning, and time is just not the same for him. And he's looking at the everlasting. So what we think is important now, or what we think is, why do I have to go through this? I believe in God. Stop it. Look at the people in the past. How many of God's people had to go through some pretty horrific things? It's not because they weren't faithful. In some cases it was. I mean, it goes both ways. But I'm just saying, in most cases, not because they weren't faithful, or not because they didn't believe. One, we do a lot of things to ourselves. We cause our own problems because we've got one foot in the world and one foot kind of out of the world. Or we don't allow the adding and taking away. What God does is adding peace, taking away dysfunction. And then there's things that just randomly happen to people. Now, how you deal with that, if you start blaming God for every miserable thing that's happened in your life, but you never ever bless him for all the good things, and even the bad things, because it's how you come out of it, right? It's a lesson. It's how you come out of it. It is a constant test. Like I said, that sermon was really brilliant. But if you're going to immediately condemn God the minute you have any trouble in your life, then you aren't with him to begin with. Even when John, I think it was John, I can't remember if it was John, or I can't remember who was in a prison, and he still kept praising God. He still kept thanking him every day, even in that circumstance. And then finally the chains let loose and he walked right out of the prison. I think he was there for like 10 days or something like that. And that's what I mean is a time of testing is coming. Understand when this is all said and done and we make it up there and this is all explained, it's going to be wow. Really. Just wow. It's going to make perfect sense. Does it make sense now? Sometimes no. If you go back to, the Exodus. A really good example of this, of what I mean by be patient, wait for God kind of thing, is God knows how this is going to end. You don't. You have clues to it in the Bible, right? He gives you a pretty much laid out, here's how it's going to go. It's just the wording you got to figure out. And how that's going to translate to today, because places have changed, names have changed, right? When the Pharaoh asked Moses, what are you going to be sacrificing? Because God said told Moses, tell the Pharaoh that to go to a certain place for a sacrifice. Well, God didn't tell Moses what that sacrifice was going to be. And there's a reason for that. So Moses answered, one, truthfully, I don't know. God will tell me when we get there. God already knew what it was going to be. And also understanding that someone else is listening. Remember, it's a spiritual war, right? So there's strategy involved. And also didn't put Moses to the point if he had to lie. Okay? So that's why he didn't tell him. So as the Israelites were leaving, they were just singing and having a good time as they were leaving. But here comes Pharaoh sending his soldiers, which God knew he was going to do because he strengthened his heart anyway. He was going to do it anyway because he wouldn't let it go. He just wouldn't let him go. And as they approach the sea and they've got the soldiers behind them, they're freaking out. And of course they go through their, why have you forsaken us thing? It's like, oh, for Pete's sake. The point is, they didn't know that sea was going to part. They didn't know it was going to fall onto those soldiers. We know from the story. We know how it ends at that. But at that point in time in history, they did not know. So although you can't see the end, completely how it's going to play out. Know that it's going to be God and his glory all the way. And that he already knows this ending. So what was this? What was the big sacrifice? Pharaoh's soldiers. Do you understand now? Is things may happen to you that you don't understand, but God understands it because he already knows that. Trust in him completely. He sees much further than any of us, even to the individual basis. So I'll look this up. Any help you can give me with the chocolate thing, heck if I know. And you guys can look this up too. That's 2 Kings. 2. Was there any 2 references in that dream? Has anybody had a lot of 2 references? Like 2 of something? Okay. You guys put that in the comments. Pretty sure that means second coming, or maybe it means something else. I don't know. We'll go from there. And again, any comments that you can... interesting choice of colors in those dresses, by the way. Did you notice that? Okay. I just pay attention to weird stuff. Anyway, just no matter what happens in your life, just trust in God completely. And understand that quite a bit of it we do to ourselves. And there's some things that happen that we didn't ask for. It's how you handle it. So strengthen up, be courageous. I don't know when the response is going to happen. It depends upon whether it's a strategy to like a first supernatural shock. If it's not a strategy, then I don't know when it's going to happen. It may happen in the middle. It may happen at the end. I don't know. Don't rely on it to get out of what's coming. Get yourself strong enough to handle no matter what comes, and it won't matter. Okay? Have a good one.